What.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. Make your next thing a big one. This week's shows, I'll be at the Rab on Friday night, my usual Friday night gig. It's the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Very exciting. It's been a good time, I'll tell you. The full bar, the kitchen is open, pool tables. There's always a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the Rab. Now, I do have one more thing that's going on Thursday, something new for me. I know I've been doing a lot of these podcasts, and I'm pretty good at public speaking, but it's pretty rare when I get asked to do a public talk. So I guess I should put that on my little marquee. If you're watching the video version of this, there's a marquee that runs, and it's something that's been put on by Marina Am Dream. She's a motivational speaker out of Arkansas, just outside of Little Rock. That's where she's based, but I know she goes around the state and she does motivational speaking. Well, she has asked me to be a part of her event called the Good Fight Motivational Night. And that's on September 17th. That is Thursday. Yeah. So I'll be a part of that show. They have, including her, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 speakers, including her, in a 2-hour show, and that's this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the National Black Belt Academy. It's on Harkrider, 2104 Harkrider Street, Suite 107, Conway, Arkansas. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've been writing a speech, trying to be real professional about it, putting it on note cards, but it's a little daunting. I'm used to being behind my turntables and having my microphone, but I will not have any turntables. I will not have any microphone. I will just have me. So I'm here to motivate the good fight. I think it's good that we speak to each other from time to time and learn about each other's battles, goods, bads, otherwise. I try to keep a cheerful outlook most of the time, but hey, sometimes things get me down. I don't let it get to me, but sometimes things do get me down. But I'm really excited. Look for the Good Fight Motivational Night. Marina Am Dream, AMDREAM, Am Dream. That's her, I guess, her stage name for her motivational speaking. Look her up and try to find that event. It's there's little details. It says life can be beautiful, but if you don't fight for what you want, it can knock you down on your knees in ways you have never expected. All right, and I know I met her. She's a photographer as well in Little Rock, so she has that going for her. But this motivational speaking, I think it's right up her alley. She's a very uplifting person once you get to know her, and I guess right off the bat, really, as soon as you meet her, you're gonna like her. But Marina Am Dream, look up Good Fight Motivational Night, and I'll be a part of that on September 17th, Thursday. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, September 12th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, West Coast fires continue to rage with mass fatality incident expected in Oregon. Fires are continuing to rage along the West Coast, with dozens of blazes spreading in California, Oregon, and Washington. Oregon emergency management officials said Friday they are preparing for a, quote, mass fatality incident in the state that once the damage can be surveyed. Dozens of Oregonians have been reported missing due to the fires, and about 10% of the state's residents have been told to evacuate their homes. In Northern California, the August complex fire is the largest fire in the state history, and thousands of homes are threatened by the flames. As smoke fills the air across the region, Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco have the worst air quality of all major cities in the world as of Friday. In some positive news, though, weather conditions are improving, and authorities expect cooler air and moisture to aid firefighters in the coming days. This is according to the Washington Post and USA Today. Number 2, first direct peace talks between Afghan government, Taliban begin. At long last, the first direct peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban began Saturday in Doha, Qatar. The actual face-to-face negotiations to end nation's nearly 2 decades old conflict will start Monday. But during Saturday's opening ceremony, Abdullah, the chair of the Afghanistan's High Council for National Reconciliation, said, quote, "If we give hands to each other and honestly work for peace, the current ongoing misery in the country will end," end quote. Taliban Deputy Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar also made brief remarks, reiterating the Taliban's demand for an, quote, independent, developed, end quote, Afghanistan with an, quote, Islamic system, end quote, of government, quote, where all its citizens see themselves reflected, end quote. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called the start of the talks a, quote, truly momentous occasion, end quote, and told the Afghan sides, quote, the choice of your future political system is, of course, yours to make, end quote. This is according to Al Jazeera and the Wall Street Journal. Number 3, Fauci warns U.S. must hunker down for challenging fall and winter. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, warned that Americans will need to, quote, hunker down, end quote, for a difficult fall and winter amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Quote, we need to hunker down and get through this fall and winter because it's not going to be easy, end quote. Fauci said on a panel with Harvard Medical School doctors. He went on to observe that, quote, every time, end quote, restrictions are lifted during the coronavirus crisis, quote, we get a blip, end quote, adding, quote, it's whack-a-mole, end quote. The United States is reporting an average of around 36,000 new COVID-19 cases a day. Previously, when the number of daily cases was around 50,000 or more. Fauci stressed the need to get this down to 10,000 by September. This is according to CNN and The Hill. Number 4, court rules Florida ex-felons can't vote without paying off fines. A federal circuit court ruled Friday that Floridians with felony convictions are only allowed to vote if they have paid off all fees and fines associated with their conviction. Nearly 2 years ago, Floridians voted to restore voting rights to people with felony convictions who'd been released from prison and weren't convicted of murder or sexual assault. But the 11th Circuit Court ruled 6-4 in favor of a policy pushed by Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, saying that the amendment only applied to former felons who have paid its restitution fees and fines. Opponents argued the pay-to-vote requirement violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, as well as the 24th Amendment's bar on implementing poll taxes. Hundreds of thousands of Floridians are estimated to have outstanding fees. The state doesn't have to tell people how much money they need to pay to vote, the court ruled. This is according to ABC News and Axios. Number 5, India reports nearly 100,000 new coronavirus cases after another record-breaking day. India on Saturday reported a record rise in new coronavirus infections for the second consecutive day after registering 97,570 new cases. The world's second most populous country now has 4.65 million confirmed cases, which is second behind the United States' 6.4 million infections. Although the U.S. still leads in raw totals, India's epidemic is now the fastest growing in the world. Meanwhile, the U.S. over the past week saw an average of 35,028 new COVID-19 cases per day, a 17-point decrease from the average 2 weeks earlier. In England, coronavirus cases are doubling every day, every 7 to 8 days. This is according to the Guardian reports. An indication the virus resurgence is accelerating in the country. This is according to Reuters and the Guardian. Number 6, CDC says eating at restaurants is most likely way to be exposed to coronavirus. Dining out is one of the most likely ways you can contract COVID-19, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a Friday report. Coronavirus positive patients in a study were twice as likely to have gone to a bar or restaurant in the last 2 weeks than those who were negative, suggesting those locations drastically increase their chances of getting coronavirus. When looking at just people who had no close contact with someone who had coronavirus, eating at a restaurant tripled their chances of infection, and going to an indoor bar quadrupled it. That's because, quote, masks cannot be effectively worn while eating and drinking, end quote, while the rest of the activities on the list, shopping, using public transportation, and others, quote, do not preclude mask use, end quote, the CDC said. This is according to the CDC. Number 7, Bahrain and Israel agree to establish diplomatic relations. Bahrain, agreed to establish normal diplomatic relations with Israel on Friday, President Trump announced. A joint statement between the two countries and the U.S. said, quote, this is a historic breakthrough to further peace in the Middle East, end quote. Last month, the United Arab Emirates also normalized ties with Israel, and Israel agreed to temporarily suspend its plans to annex West Bank territory. Quote, I am very hopeful that there will be more peace agreements to follow, end quote, said Trump. Bahrain and Israel will open embassies and exchange ambassadors for the first time. Quote, like most other Arab states, end quote, writes the Washington Post, quote, Bahrain had until now officially considered Israel to be an illegitimate usurper of Palestine land and rights, end quote. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 8, China reportedly prefers a TikTok shutdown in the U.S. to a forced sale. As President Trump's deadline approaches on a sale of TikTok's U.S. operations, Reuters reports China would rather the app shut down in America than be forced to sell. ByteDance, the social platform's Chinese parent company, has reportedly been in talks with Microsoft and Oracle, but is reportedly not likely to miss Trump's September 20th deadline for a sale. Beijing, quote, opposes a forced sale of TikTok's U.S. operations, end quote, says Reuters, because Chinese officials feel a, quote, forced sale would make both ByteDance and China appear weak in the face of pressure from Washington, end quote. Trump has said TikTok will be banned in the United States due to national security concerns unless ByteDance sells the app's U.S. operations to an American company. He said he would not extend the deadline. This is according to Reuters and Bloomberg. Number 9, Iran executes wrestler despite suspicions of coerced confession. Iranian state news media on Saturday reported the state execution of Navid Afkari, a 27-year-old wrestler, at a prison in the southern city of Shiraz. Afkari was accused of fatally stabbing a water supply company employee during a 2018 anti-government protest in Shiraz, and his case received international attention. Iran broadcast his confession last week, but the New York Times reports Afkari can be heard on an audio tape smuggled from prison saying that he had been tortured until he falsely confessed. The televised segment resembled many others suspected coerced confessions aired over the last several years in Iran, the Associated Press reports. President Trump, whose administration has clashed with Iranian government, had previously called on Tehran to spare Afkari's life. This is according to the New York Times and the Associated Press. Number 10, Celtics knock out defending champions. Raptors advance to Eastern Conference Finals. The Boston Celtics defeated the defending champion Toronto Raptors 92-87 in Game 7 of the NBA Eastern Conference Semifinals in the Orlando bubble Friday night. After a hard-fought back-and-forth series, Boston outlasted Toronto in the fourth quarter of the decisive game behind a 29-point performance from young star Jason Tatum and clutch defensive plays from Marcus Smart. The Celtics move on to play the Miami Heat, who are fresh off an impressive upset over the East top-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. With a spot in the finals on the line, both Western Conference semifinals are still going. The Denver Nuggets staved off elimination against the Los Angeles Clippers on Friday, setting up a sixth game, while the Los Angeles Lakers will look to close out the Houston Rockets in Game 5 on Saturday night. This is according to ESPN. That's 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, September 12th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening. Some good news, some bad news. But it's all news out there, trying to keep up with current events. I hope you're doing reasonably well. Let me know what you're up to. Drop me some comments. I really want to know. I really want to know. If you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. And I'm also streaming games online. Look that up using the hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. Hey, pretty excited about that show on the 17th. Marina Am Dreams, Fighting the Good Fight. Look for that on Facebook. There's an event planned. So it's right here in Conway, Arkansas. If you can make it from 6 to 8 in Conway, Arkansas at the National Black Belt Academy, I encourage you to do so. Come watch. Come learn. Come get involved. Come have some good fellowship, I guess. and come and say hi over at the Good Fight Motivational Night. That's Thursday, September 17th at the National Black Belt Academy in Conway, Arkansas on Harkrider Street. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.